Okay, welcome back. Let's continue. The next thing we want to cover, reading input from the console. We're going to introduce, and we're going to introduce something called a scanner object. Now, Java is an object-oriented programming language. Most everything in Java is a class, or is actually an object being an instance of a class. We've only touched on this very lightly. We talked about it a little bit last week. If this idea of classes and objects, if it really hasn't started to resonate with you yet, that's okay. It's not absolutely required for the things we're going to do in the next few weeks. But quickly, let's just say we're going to pull in this scanner object. It's a piece of functionality. It's code from the Java class library, code that's written, compiled, tested, ready for you to use. So look at it as kind of your toolbox. You've got all these great tools provided by Java in your toolbox, and we use them as required. So let's see what we have here. Reading input from the console, we're going to create a scanner object. How do we do that? So we're going to create an object of type scanner. Its name is input, so scanner input equals new scanner system.in. What does this mean? We're going to create this line of code right here, scanner parentheses system.in. This is a key concept. This is called a constructor. A constructor is what we use to initialize and create an object. So we're going to create an object of type scanner whose name is input. And system.in, what does that mean? That means we're going to read data from the console. So we're going to read data from the console right here. We're going to read it from one of these command windows. We'll come to this in just a second. One of the things that's really handy, you'll see lots of this kind of thing in the Java programming language. All these sort of new classes. Suppose you wanted to find out where is the formal documentation for the scanner object. It's actually pretty easy. Let's go here to a browser and we'll type Java scanner and let's see what we get. Okay, and it's the very first hit here, and you see we've got lots of hits, but this is what we're looking for. Look, docs.oracle.com, Java Standard Edition, and this is for Java 7. As we mentioned, 7, you can use Java 7, Java 8 at your own discretion. So let's go ahead and see what this is. Okay, so here is the formal, this is the official documentation from Oracle for the scanner object. So if you want to find out more, you can read through this. Here's a nice little example. So there's some text up front, some great, and you know, for our purposes, if you want to look at this, you can just get into, you know, read the first section. It gets into some pretty involved things down below, which you don't need to know everything in here. Here are all the constructors. We talked about a constructor, so here is a way to construct one of these scanner objects. The one we're using is right here, input stream source, and that input stream again is right from the console here, and we're going to run this in a second. Here are all the methods. Again, this idea of methods, if it's something you don't really own yet, that's okay. You can still use them. The methods represent all the operations that you can do, with a scanner object. So see, there's actually quite a few, and you see all this. It looks a little bit daunting. No one is really expected to memorize this or know all these. The key though is to know where to look in the documentation, how to look things up. So let's go ahead and use one of these things. So here, create a scanner object, scanner input equals new scanner. Now, we're going to use one of these methods to read a piece of data of type double from the console, from the keyboard. A double is a 64-bit floating point number, and we're going to use this kind of a number because we want to use it in a mathematical calculation. Here's what the code looks like, system.out.print. So this just prints enter a double value, and it prints it right here to the console. And here is our scanner. We create our scanner, and we're going to use one of these methods, input, that's the name of our scanner object, and the method we're going to use is next double. So what does this do? This says the next thing I get from the keyboard is a piece of data. It's of type double, and we're going to store it in this variable named D. Here is another declaration. It's defining a variable of type double whose name is D. Where do we get it from? We are going to get it from this scanner object. Now, one of the things that your author provides, it's pretty nifty. Let's see, I pulled it up earlier. Your author provides these listings with these animations. Let me get it into the movie. So here is our program. Let's go ahead and run it. So I actually started running it earlier. Here's our main method, public static void main. Every Java program has this. Every standalone Java program has this. Okay, so here's the next. We're going to create this scanner object, and you get this nice annotation right on your author's website. So we create the scanner object. Here we're going to prompt the user. We're going to prompt the user to enter some data. Here is the data itself. In the slides, remember it was called D. Here it's called radius. This is a better name than D, radius. This is a descriptive name that describes what we're going to do with this piece of data we read from the keyboard. And here's our calculation. So let's go next. And here, this is nice. This is actually running on your author's website, so it is interactive. Let's enter some data. Let's put in 4. Okay. And so the value of this piece of data called radius is 4. And notice it's not for the integer, it's 4.0. It's a floating point number. Let's continue. And we did the calculation. 4 times 4 times pi is 50 times 265, 50.265. Display the result, and the result is displayed to the console here. And the main method exits. The program is finished. Now, let's go ahead and do. So this is nice to get our heads around it. Let's go ahead and do this ourselves. So here is the program. And I'll also put this, I'll put this out on Blackboard for you. Now, I think there's a little bit of this odd name, but sometimes stuff like this happens. Compute area with console input with console inputs. See, you could name it whatever you want, but I left it exactly as it's shown on the website and in the slides, so as not to confuse you. But here is the same. Here's the same thing. This is locally on my machine. Notice here, to use one of these scanner objects, we need to tell the Java compiler that we're using it. So here we have this import statement, import java.util for utility.scanner. Again, if you don't quite understand what this is, that's okay. You can look at it like this. In order to use one of these scanner objects, You must tell the compiler you're using it, and this is where the compiler, this is how the compiler knows what it is. Main, and all the codes here are the same. Let's go ahead and compile it and run it. So let's go ahead. I'm going to type Java C. Now, the name of the main class is compute area with console input with console input. Compute area with console input with console input. Let's go ahead and do that. And the phone always rings when you're making a video, doesn't it? Compute area with console input. So there it is. There's my Java file. It's got this long name. And again, you could give it a simpler name. But key, the name, the name of the file must be the same name that's shown here. So here we're going to compile it. Now let's go ahead and, so what happened? We got this class file. Let's go ahead and run it. Compute area with console input. Okay, it's asking us for a number for the radius. Let's do something different here. We'll just do 2, something easy. And the area for the circle of radius 2 is 12.56636. Let's go ahead and do it again. Let's give it something different. Let's give it 3.5. Because it is a double, we can do this. So the area for the circle of radius 3.5 is 38.4844775. So here we're actually you're starting to get into some pretty good functionality here. You can read from the console, you can read input from the user, and you can take that user and start doing, mathematical operations with it. So even though we've just started, I think you can see with Java, with a programming language like Java, we can start writing useful programs pretty quickly. So take a look at this. This is out on, this code is out on Blackboard for you. Compile and run it yourself. It's the best way to learn. Okay, let's leave it right there, and I'll see you in the next video.